Hello and welcome to the third session in the introductory course of the Center for Resilient Leadership. In the first course, I gave you an overview of where we started on this journey and told you that I'd be talking about 5 different concepts that get tied together in the Center for Resilient Leadership. The first one was neuroscience, and in the neuroscience course, I introduced you to the 4 characters of the brain and to REACTS, which is an acronym for the social threats and rewards to the brain. So we talked a little bit about what happens in our brain when we respond to challenge based on these 4 characters in the model. This third session is about mindfulness. Mindfulness is a buzzword that we keep hearing a lot about now, and it's been recognized now how powerful being mindful can be, particularly in this age where we're so inundated with all sorts of information and all sorts of ideas and multitasking and all of that. Mindfulness is just an awareness of what is happening in the present moment. So often we're so concerned with everything else that's going on and we're multitasking, and that's just not the way our brain works very well. So mindfulness is the idea of understanding what is happening in the here and now so that we're able to respond accordingly. And in the model, the dragonfly really represents the idea of mindfulness, of understanding, okay, what's happening right now? What can I be aware of that's happening right now? And I really like to introduce the idea of that from Dan Siegel, who's one of my favorite neuroscientists, introduces a model of the brain using his hand. And I'm gonna use that to represent it. So if you look at your hand, this part of your hand represents the oldest part of the brain. It's sort of the stem brain, it's the reptilian brain, and it keeps us alive and breathing. This part of your hand, your thumb, represents the limbic system of the brain. And this part of your brain is the cortex, or the thinking part of the brain. In our model, the grasshopper and the glowworm live in this part of the brain. The glowworm is sort of the thumbnail, the limbic system. And the ant and the dragonfly live in the thinking part of the brain. And the dragonfly lives in the prefrontal cortex, which is in charge of our executive functions. Now, the reason I like to use the hand model is the dragonfly has the ability to take off and to really get a bird's eye view. And that is mindfulness. It's almost like separating yourself and understanding what is happening in the moment. And the reason we have the dragonfly is that it can really take off and understand, okay, what's happening in this situation? What is contributing to this? And that awareness of where is our brain? Are we in grasshopper mode? Are we in ant mode? And which mode do we want to be in? And if we're in grasshopper mode and we really don't want to handle this situation in grasshopper mode, being able to get out of there and remove ourselves from the situation till we're ready to use the ant part of our brain. And also the situational awareness of what triggered that, or what mode is this other person that I'm interacting with? Because if I'm trying to talk to somebody who's in grasshopper mode and be logical with them, they're not going to be able to respond to me in the way that is productive. So the dragonfly and mindfulness is really understanding the situation that is happening and being able to respond accordingly and making choices that are more productive for that situation. And mindfulness can be practiced so that we can get better at it, and we can really, as we become aware of that, make more mindfully resilient choices. The next session that we're going to be talking about is resilience. What do we mean by resilience? I say more mindfully resilient choices. And really, that's where I started the journey. How do we become more resilient? And how do we teach resilience? So I hope to see you in the next session. Again, we started with neuroscience, we moved on today to mindfulness, and next we're hitting resilience. See you then. Thanks.